Hello, my name is Sarah, and today we're going to be looking at my small collection of Fae decks. I don't have the Disney view of Fae. I understand them to be complex creatures that can be both beautiful and scary sometimes. The first deck is the Hidden Realm Tarot. Please pardon my edging job, I know it's a bit of a mess. The backs are a beautiful purple color with a whimsical Celtic knot type design, and they are not reversible. The way I shuffle always produces reversals, but I just turn them upright. The Hidden Realm deck, I believe, is a staple of my Fae deck collection. The cards have up close images of people with forest or magical backgrounds. The images focus on the facial expressions and the body language to express the meaning for each card. This deck has a Celtic Fae theme and mentions the goddess the Morrigan. The only cards with no human images are the aces, which show an animal. The images are highly detailed with a beautiful color palette. The cards themselves are borderless with the title ribbon at the bottom, which makes the images stand out. They do have a little bit of a gloss to them, as this deck is printed by Llewellyn and has their standard cardstock, which has held up over the years. So now we move to the guidebook. The book is written by Barbara Moore, while the artwork is done by Julia Jeffrey. The guidebook is 213 pages, which makes it a substantial guidebook. The book does give basic information about the tarot, but where the magic lies is in the writing style of Barbara Moore. She has the ability to bring you into the world of the Fae with her writing style. There is numerological information and how different suits work together. Also, there is a table of contents for easy navigation. Each of the cards, both major and minor arcana, have a black and white image of the card and 2 to 3 paragraphs of information about what is being depicted in the card image. That information is then followed by a divinatory meaning for the card. By reading both the description and the divinatory meaning, a deeper understanding is achieved. There are no reversal meanings in the guidebook, and since the cards are not reversible, I do not read reversals with this deck despite my shuffling style. Lastly, there are several spreads located in the back of the book, with advice on how to connect with the Fae world as well. Overall, this deck is straight magic. It's beautifully executed both with the images and the guidebook. Next, we have the original Arthur Rackham Oracle. This is a second edition which has 80 cards and is made by Duck Soup Productions. This deck comes in a 2-piece matte box, and the guidebook is a small booklet that does not give descriptions for each of the cards. The booklet does, however, give information about the artist and his collection of work. The artwork for this deck is taken from Arthur Rackham's body of work, and title words have been added to each card. There are a few spreads located in the back of the booklet. Rackham illustrated for magazines, newspapers. In addition, he illustrated for more than 42 books. The artwork for this deck is pulled from 5 of the books he illustrated. 2 of them are Grimm Brothers fairy tales, A Midsummer's Night's Dream, Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, and Peer Gynt. The cards have a lovely starry night scene with a wanderer on the back. They are tarot size, high gloss, with gold gilding. They do not stick and they are very slippy, which is basically the perfect cardstock in my opinion. The images are done in watercolor, and he is known for his fantasy artwork. The deck has a significator card and is influenced by both tarot and Lenormand. With the significator card, you can shuffle the deck and then locate the significator card within the deck. Look at the cards to the left and to the right for past and future divinatory meanings. Also, the meanings from the cards can be taken from the stories from which they have been taken from, so knowledge of the stories can be used to have a better understanding of the divinatory meaning for each of the cards. The word choices on the cards are thoughtful, but sometimes you'll have to look up the definitions for the word on the card. From my personal experience with this deck has been really insightful. It does slow you down to really soak in the message to have a full understanding. There are nuances that shape the meaning to the reading. This deck is not specifically a Fae deck, more a fairy tale. It carries the same otherworldly feeling, and that is why I include it in the Fae category. Sometime after I purchased this deck, I heard that there was an ethical issue with the creator. I did go back recently to see if I can find anything, but I did not. Please use discretion and research your decision before purchasing this deck. The next deck I have here is the Faerie Enchantments deck, which is independently published by its creator, Ian Daniels. This deck is both a working deck and an oracle deck. This card here is used to generate meaning for a personalized card within the deck that uses your astrological information for its personalization. The book has 111 pages, with a table of contents and beautiful images within the book. The book has a page to 2 pages of divinatory information for each of the cards, if used as an oracle. If used as a working deck, the back of the deck has information specific for each card to be used within a working. The guidebook has information about hedge witchery, elemental energy, magical numbers, making magical charms, and moon cycles, to name a few. The size of the guidebook is deceiving, given the amount of information it contains. I have another video on this deck that explains how to work with this deck in greater detail, which explains how the back of the cards are used in a magical working. The cards themselves are slightly larger than a tarot card. They are high gloss with a lovely dusty rose color for the gilding. The color palette of this deck is mainly sepia color tones, with the occasional touch of pink in the cards. Each card is highly detailed with no number or name on the front of the card, which leaves the image unobstructed. The card name and information are located on the back. The information on the back of the cards is what is used in the magical workings. The fairy images on the cards are dark in nature and are based on Celtic deities and spirits of the other world. Also, this deck can be used as an introduction to Celtic gods and goddesses, as the guidebook gives information about the deity and the divinatory meaning. The design of this deck and book is genius. It is essentially 2 decks in one. It is truly a gateway to the other world. The next fairy deck is a playing card deck by the company Bicycle, which is simply called the Fae. It is a standard playing card deck and can be used for playing card divination readings. It comes in a simple tug box, which is normal for playing cards. The pips for this deck have a Celtic knotwork design, and the courts have different Fae images such as brownie, goblin, mob, and pixie, to name a few. This deck can be used in situations where discretion is needed, and it is simply a poker deck and would not cause any suspicion or unwanted attention. Also, reading playing cards is not entirely different than reading the minor arcana of the tarot. However, there are some differences, the main one being not having the major arcana. Reading poker cards for divination is a common tool, and it's also really inexpensive. The Joker cards for this deck show an empty throne, one in a winter scene and one in a summer scene, which is a nod to the Oak and Holly Kings. Overall, it's a great little deck for some Fae energy while being discreet, if you need to be, like at the office, or like telling Susan that Mark from accounting isn't really into her. The next deck is the Enchanted Forest deck. This deck does fall into the fairy tale category, but because it has the ability to pull you into its world of magical forest, I consider it a fairy type deck. Cards are borderless with only a title banner at the bottom. The cards also have reversible backs. The deck is made by Llewellyn and has their standard cardstock. The coloration of this deck is mainly greens and blues, and it is gorgeous. I did edge mine in green as well, since it seemed to be only fitting. Although the deck is based off of the Rider-Waite system, it has its own way to depict the meanings that are clever and thoughtful. Each image is so detailed and vibrant that it draws you into its world. The theme of this deck seems to be of a Celtic magical forest and has several woodland creatures that you would probably find in such a magic forest, such as a wyvern, trolls, a frog prince, and even a few fairies. This deck has a very distinct personality that is difficult to describe. Right from the beginning, it was welcoming, magical, and almost surreal, while getting right to the point. It has a very clear voice. The book is equally as beautiful as the cards. There is information about the author, Linnea Weatherstone, and the artist, Marilla Allwood. Please forgive me if I pronounce the names incorrectly. There is a table of contents and information on the basics of tarot. There is an introduction to the guidebook and a list of the name changes for the majors. There is some more information about tarot and specifically for this deck. Each card has a full page color image on the left-hand side that shows the image in great detail. Also, each card has about a page of information about what is being depicted in the scene and the divinatory meaning for each card. In addition, each card has a closer look section that highlights minute details in the card and has additional information that could be easily overlooked. The book is organized by the major arcana first, and then numerically for the minors. Before each new section, there is a paragraph of information about that number and how it corresponds to the suit, which is nice if you're trying to learn numerical correlations with tarot. Overall, this is a beautiful deck and one of my favorites. I will never be without it. The next deck I have is the Hush Tarot. The Hush Tarot is not specifically a Fae deck, but again, it has the surreal qualities that qualify it to be put into the Fae category. It is a US Games publication and comes in a sturdy 2-piece box. The card backs have the name of the tarot and almost has an old-timey feel, but I can't quite put my finger on it. The cardstock is the lovely standard US Game cardstock. They are mainly borderless with just an outline for the border. For the minors, the symbol of the suit is at the top with the number and the court name at the bottom. The coloration for this deck is muted with tans, browns, blues, pale yellows, olive greens, and the occasional soft pink. This deck has images of both life and decay, and it includes images of human skulls and human faces worn as masks. There are human images that have proportions that are the same size as insects at times, or human figures riding birds, like the Fae. This deck portrays images that have adventure, danger, and mystery. I would probably not recommend this deck as a beginner deck, as a good foundational knowledge of tarot would help with the understanding of the cards and their specific nuances. This deck is very beautiful and has very detailed images that show the darker side of the other world. The guidebook is the same size as the cards. It is compact. It has about 64 pages. The first 2 pages are the introduction, and then it goes right into the card meanings. For each card, there is about 2 keywords for the upright position, a brief description of the scene of the card, then 2 additional keywords for the reverse meaning, followed by a few sentences for the reverse meaning for clarification. There is only one card spread located in the back of the book, and it's actually a good one. It's only 4 cards, but it's very enlightening. It's called the Self-Binding Influence. And this spread actually matches the overall energy for this deck. This deck took a little bit to work with and to get to know, but it is great for working with the darker side of the Fae world. The next deck is the Gentle Creatures Wisdom Oracle deck. Again, this is not a Fae-specific deck, and it does stray a bit from being classified as a fairy deck. However, this does have woodland creatures that are otherworldly in a sense, which loosely can be added to the Fae-ish category. The backs have a really cute fur design. This deck is made by US Games and is larger than a tarot card, but still has the same great US Game cardstock. They are mainly borderless with the title banner at the bottom. Many of the images show the gentle creatures in a forest scene, but the deck does have some variety. The creatures do not have any facial expressions, so you must observe the body language to understand the emotion that is being portrayed in the image. The art for this deck is stunning, highly detailed, yet soft at the same time. It kind of gets you sucked into their world. I did make a video that goes over this deck and shows all the cards. The overall energy of this deck is sweet, kind, and compassionate. It does have a few negative cards, which makes it more balanced as a deck. The book is 65 pages long and is written by Arwen Lynch Poe, while the artwork is done by Dan May. There is a 2-page introduction, and the cards are listed alphabetically. There is a description for each card and what is going on in the image of the card, along with its divinatory meaning. I really connected with the sweet nature of this deck and its lovely images. The next deck we have is the Faerie Oracle deck by Brian Froud and Jessica Macbeth. This deck is well known and has been around for several years. Brian Froud's artwork is amazing and stunning. It is detailed, earthly, otherworldly, and depicts the Fae as I truly imagine them to look like. Their facial expression and body language adds to the overall impression and meaning for each card. The cardstock is okay, and the wording on the bottom of each card is difficult for me to read, so I use the number at the top right to look up the card meaning. This deck is one of the few Oracle decks that uses reversals, which expands the potential for messages from this deck. The deck is divided into 5 sets of 13 cards, plus 1 blank one, the 0 card. The 0 card is used for your personalized fairy guide. The 5 subcategories include the Singers of the Realms, the She, the Fairy Guides and Guardians, the Helpline Troop, and the Fairy Challengers. Now, the subgroups are not to be confused with the hierarchy system. They are simply subgroups. From my experience, you do have to work at building a relationship with this deck. Just like the Fae, this deck does not welcome newcomers with open arms. You have to earn it. The book is the other half of this magical equation. As far as the quality of the guidebook, it is ideal, substantial, hardcover, and illustrated. The first section of this book is an introduction into the Fae Otherworld. It does have acknowledgments and a good table of contents as well for easy navigation. And this book encourages you to reach out into the Fae world, to listen, and to understand. This is not a passive deck, but one that can interact with you. Each card description has a blue scale picture of the card, the name, a number, keywords, card description, upright divinatory meaning, and reverse divinatory meaning. The writing style is descriptive, thoughtful, and clear. In the back of the book, there is a going deeper section that has a meditation section, contacting planet Earth, centering, connecting, along with additional card spreads for readings. I believe that this deck is truly connected with the Fae of the world, and it depicts them in their truest form, along with their unique energies for each of the Fae. And the last item I want to share with you is this beautiful book simply called Fairies. It is described and illustrated by Brian Froud and Alan Lee. It is a very large book, as you can see, and it is simply stunning. There is no table of contents, and the pages are not even numbered. Every page has illustrations of the Fae. There are many different types of fairies that are illustrated, along with information about each one, and there are some historical references about the Fae as well. There are handwritten sections within the book that give it almost a journal type of feeling. This book is great if you want to look at beautiful art, learn about the different fairies, and take a step into their world. Overall, it is a beautiful, stunning, just amazing book. The role of the Fae can be different for different people, and I am by no means an expert on the topic. But I do have respect and compassion for them. And these are the decks and the book that bring me a little closer to their world. So thank you for watching, and bye!